Well,
Yes, Bob.
we saw Logan
Oh, we sure did.
early.
Yeah, this
Way
is
early.
We're filming this on February 24th. Movie doesn't come out until next week. And we got to see it, and we got some things we like to say about it.
Oh boy, howdy.
Yes.
First off, I'd like to say we're going to do no spoilers for a little bit,
Yeah.
and then we're going to go right into full spoiler territory. I know there's a little bit of taboo about posting spoilers this early in advance.
Yeah, I feel like though, like
People are going to do it anyway.
we're giving people a lot of warning.
Right, but the thing is that like then they'll go ruin it for other people. That's the problem.
I've heard though that people actually, it doesn't matter if you get told them a spoiler or not, they'll still go see it and enjoy it.
I heard
regardless.
that. Yeah, I think there's an Idea Channel episode on that.
Yeah.
That's bullshit. I'll agree with that. Anyway, it was good.
It was very good.
I was honestly expecting it to be a little better.
Really?
Yeah, I wasn't as blown away as I was hoping.
Interesting.
But you liked it.
I liked it a whole lot more than I thought I would. It's the kind of comic book movie I like to see in that I like it when when they take the source material seriously. And for the most part, like every modern day superhero movie does that. The Marvel movies do that. The Nolan Batman movies did that, and the X-Men movies for the most part do that. But this takes it seriously in a way that, you know, it's not this is like a pure drama with like a lot of heavy human emotions and a lot of like actual weight to what's going on. And you really haven't seen that outside of the Nolan Batman movies with like all the gravitas and like the emotion of what's going on around the world actually affecting the heroes of it, and like it really like taking their toll on them. That's the type of stuff we see in the comics all the time.
Right.
And as much as I love the Marvel movies, and as much as they take the source material seriously, they're still presenting it as like these big flashy action movies. And with Logan now, it's more back to being very much a human emotion drama piece. That's not to say there aren't a lot of, you know, fun bits in the movie. There are. This movie has surprisingly a lot of funny moments.
They were few and far between.
Yeah,
I'd say.
but you know the theme of it and the overall emotion of it was definitely coming from a place of seriousness.
I've said this about the trailers. I wish that it was stylized differently.
Yeah.
Because it looks just like any other Fox movie.
Yeah.
Like Fox Marvel movie.
Yeah.
They could have color graded it differently or something to make it look less saturated, so that you know how serious this is and you know how different this is going to be. But instead, it looked just like a regular.
A lot of it takes place in the desert, which you know, I guess nothing's more serious than like the bleakness of the desert.
But still, it's bright and like red, you know. So
yeah, no, I know.
It was very, very warm colors and stuff, and that usually doesn't lend well to such a dark story like this. Other than that, like I enjoyed it, but there were still some things like the bad guys. I'd say were bad guys that you would see in a campy like one of the other X-Men movies. They're not the bad guys that I would be expecting for a story that was this dark.
Right, but I think the way they spun it, specifically what they were doing with X-23 and like that whole story, I think, you know, makes them just a little bit darker and more suited for this than, you know, had it been in another X-Men movie, because it just, you know, it's going to places now that you don't normally see comic book villains go to. Right. I think that in a movie like this, where they are going to places that comic book movies don't normally go to, they needed a villain like that, and I think they spun that.
They did. The bad guys did bad things.
Yes,
they're
very much so.
They're part of the dark story, but they didn't present themselves in such a way that made it look like they were as terrible people and as dark people.
Well, I certainly think they did.
I don't think so, because they were like joking around and being they told more jokes than anybody else.
I think that was part of it, though, because like they're doing all these bad things, and yet here they are, just making jokes about.
But then
everything.
if you're gonna do that, make them look maniacal, like the Joker.
Well, I think they did a pretty decent job of that, especially
I don't know.
Considering that their main target is a child,
right?
And that whole situation.
I just again, it was very good. I enjoyed myself through a lot of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that it was dark in weird ways. Like I knew that the overall story is very dark. What they're doing is very dark. What happened to everybody is very dark. But like certain things, I was like, that's actually uncomfortable, and this could have been spun differently. And like a lot of it was very The Last of Us.
Yeah,
that you could see by the trailers. A lot of it looks just like The Last of Us. It's The Last of Us in imagery, but like not much else. It's this. I mean, the connection between X-23 and Wolverine you don't really see until like the very end. It's not building as throughout the story like it is in The Last of Us.
Well, you keep comparing it to The Last of Us. I would remind you that this is based on comics, and this is specifically Old Man Logan, and his relationship with X-23. It starts off, he doesn't want to have anything to do with her, and then like it slowly builds over time. Right. And I think, that's displayed very well in this film because this is a guy who has led just an awful life. Everybody he knows or loves dies. And now here comes somebody who's like very much him, just, a little girl. And he doesn't want his life anymore, and let alone have it passed on to someone else. So you can see him being very resistant of it the entire time.
Right.
She represents who he was, and he doesn't want to be that person anymore.
It was frustrating. A lot of the connection between characters, the dynamic between characters was frustrating to me.
You think so?
Yeah. Some of it, like, I get it. Wolverine is a brooding guy, and I get it. This is supposed to be very dark, but like in the other movies, he wasn't like that.
No, he was.
He was, but it wasn't as bad.
Right. Well, because those other movies were PG-13, action adventure, good rollicking time movies. This was not. Right. This is very much, he is at his wit's end. He has had it. He has seen too much. All of his friends are dead. He can't heal as fast as he used to anymore. Like, he's just not in a good place. Everything he's been through, everything he's seen, like this is his breaking point.
I completely understand. I'm not saying he should be a happy-go-lucky Wolverine over here. I'm just saying that the places that it was dark, some of it felt like it was it felt weird. It didn't feel like it didn't feel as, I don't know. I can't really put my finger on it. It didn't feel as natural as I was expecting.
I will say, to your point, this movie is rated R. It is very much an R-rated film. And sometimes I feel like it's unnecessarily rated R. Because a lot of
the gore,
there's a lot of gore in this movie. And I would say a lot of it's unnecessary. They just throw the F word around every 2 minutes.
That was unnecessary.
Because they could.
Sometimes it was funny. Sometimes it was placed in good spots. But like I think the first word out of Logan's mouth is the F word.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I think so too. So
it was a little much.
Yeah, I mean. That said, I'm happy this is rated R. I think, Wolverine is good fitting for an R-rated film. This film deserves its R rating. It earns its R rating. But, like we said, it's just sometimes they went a little too far with it.
The gore, people were expecting the gore. I was happy with the amount that they used. Sometimes it was a little...
Yeah.
I think they could have gotten a lot worse with it, but
yeah.
I think... the amount that they used was passable. Like, we'll get into spoilers, but towards the end, it gets a little ridiculous.
Yeah.
But throughout the movie, I thought it was they used the right amount. There wasn't like an overwhelming amount of blood everywhere and stuff.
Well, no, but like when he uses
there was
his
like
claws,
limbs flying off.
There are limbs flying, and we see the claws go into faces and heads, and There's like blood all over him, and it does spray every so often.
Every time he stabbed somebody in the face or the head, the crowd went nuts.
Yeah.
I've never seen a crowd that was that into.
This was a surprisingly raucous crowd. You know, they made you thought you were watching a sporting event, and not a movie.
They were like yelling at the screen.
Yeah.
It was the premiere, by the way. That's why everybody was excited. But it was good. I was expecting it to be a little better.
I was pleasantly surprised. I've enjoyed this movie a lot more than I thought I did. It is hands down the best solo Wolverine movie.
Yes, I will agree with that.
I may go as far as to say it might be one of the top 3 best X-Men films, period. Not counting Deadpool.
So, yeah, okay. I could see that. I only really liked First Class and what's the other one?
Days of
Future Past. Yeah, those 2 were awesome. Everything else,
they
were movies.
I mean, I pretty much have your same thing, yeah. But I mean, I still like the first 2, but they haven't aged well. But I would slot this right above the first 2.
So, what did you think of Hugh Jackman's performance? As his last Wolverine performance.
This was the performance to go out on. He's always been the high point of these movies, even when he's not technically in them. But this is, I think, everything he's been building towards. This is, the Wolverine movie he's been wanting to make for a while. This was, definitely, I would think his best performance in the entire franchise so far, because there's a lot, I think he understood the gravitas of it. There's a lot riding on this. It's his last one. It's rated R. They're going with some weird places. So everything had to be right, and I think you can see that in his performance.
Shall we go into spoilers?
Yes, let's go into spoilers.
Guys, we're going to go into spoilers. If you don't want to see that, leave a like and a comment.
Yeah, and subscribe if you're not already, and we will see you next time.
Yes. Now, close your ears and shut up unless you want to hear about spoilers.
Spoilers in 3, 2, 1.
Well, how did everybody die? How did all the X-Men die?
They sort of explain that.
Yeah, I totally went over my head.
So, in the movie, Professor X is having problems with his brain. Like, his brain's like deteriorating, and he keeps having like these seizures that like hurt the people around him, and it's implied that there was a incident in Westchester that left many injured and many more dead. It's implied that Professor X was the cause of that incident,
right? And
during that incident, he killed all the X-Men.
All right,
that's what they're talking about there.
Like at that point, a snick to the head. Guy just be done with it.
Well, I mean, technically that's what happened later on.
Yeah, but it wasn't on Wolverine's terms. It was on somebody else's
exactly.
terms. By the way, was that person, what was it, X-24?
X-24, yeah.
Was X-24 also Hugh Jackman?
Yes.
I couldn't tell.
Yeah, no, that was also, because they like did something to his facial hair.
Yeah, and they gave him a crew cut.
Yeah.
They made him look younger.
Yeah.
That was weird. That was like a Terminator looking thing.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how I feel about that, because I feel like that could have just been Sabretooth. Like, bring him back one more time.
Yeah, you could have just had Saber. Yeah, you're right.
But I get why they did that, to show like the experiment, the X experiments, and their progression. I found it weird that there's like a bunch of X-23s, and Laura is the 23rd X-23.
Oh,
X-23 was the name of the child experiments they were doing.
Oh.
Yeah, and Laura was just the 23rd X-23.
Yeah, why would they do that?
I don't know. That was weird to me.
They should have just all been X's.
Yeah, she should have been the 23rd. But I mean, that's a minor thing, I think. Yeah.
Again, the gore was like, all right, but like at the end, you have all of the kids fighting.
Yeah.
And some of that was like unnecessarily gory, like on purpose.
Yeah, well, I feel like that just adds the whole thing, because the whole X-23 project is building child soldiers,
right.
And you see like all the horrible shit they do to them, and the kids reacting to it, and then at the end when they finally take out all the bad guys, and you just see like this is what their life has been. It's been nothing but violence. They know nothing else. They're trying to live peacefully, but they're forced to do all these awful things because that's all they know.
Right.
So I mean, it fits all along in that theme. The whole movie has like this general theme of, you know, living with all this awful stuff you've done over the years, and like, how do you handle it? How do you move on from that?
Now, of all the things that Wolverine could be doing when he's trying to lay low, a limo driver.
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know. It's
bodyguard, like something cool. For a lot of the movie, Wolverine wasn't as badass as I was hoping him to be.
Well, I mean, they're definitely doing the old man Logan thing where he's like, he's old, he's tired, his powers don't work as well as they used to anymore. He doesn't want to live that life anymore.
Yeah, but there's ways to make somebody badass without him being like as active, like a Western.
Yeah,
like you build a lot of tension, you make him feared. Yeah,
well,
like there was sprinkles of that, but like there wasn't any part where I was like, yeah.
Well, I think it's because he doesn't want that anymore. He wants this to be over. He wants to buy a boat and move out into the sea with.
It's not about what Wolverine wants. It's about what they should have done with the story of this movie. But he should have been badass, and he was. It was just sprinkled about, and it wasn't as they could have made it like.
But I think they were trying to emphasize the fact that this is the end. There are no more mutants. This is his last ride, and like he's old, he's tired, he doesn't want to do this anymore. He can't do this anymore. Right. So like he's trying to retire from the X-Men life and symbolically the Wolverine life, but he can't. There's this one more thing that he has to do. Try as he might to not do this anymore.
And I completely understand. Why Wolverine does not want to fight or do any of these things. I don't understand why they didn't make him look more badass.
I mean, I think that, the first thing we see him do is fight a whole bunch of people. Yeah. We see him like being a surly drunk for a lot of it.
He fights a lot of people, murders a lot of people.
Yep.
But you look at something, I hate to compare the two, but you look at something like John Wick.
Yeah.
And the whole movie, they're just like, John Wick? You did that to John Wick?
Yeah.
And they're building up how badass this guy is, and then you see him do something badass.
Right.
Like, everybody knows who Wolverine is, and even the main bad guy.
Yeah, he says like, "Oh, you're the Wolverine, aren't you?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, everybody that encounters him should be shaking in their boots.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is a world where mutants don't exist anymore. Mutants are like almost a legend.
Yeah, exactly. It should be like, oh my god, you're Wolverine.
Nobody takes them seriously because there hasn't been a mutant in years.
Yeah.
So
there were people that were like, wow, you're Wolverine, but they didn't seem to care much.
Yeah.
They were like, wow, cool. I need to study you, and he's like, no, and then he leaves. I mean, the little girl was badass as hell.
Yeah, the little girl was great. Yeah,
she was fantastic.
She's got a bright future ahead of her.
Yeah, I hope there's more of her.
Yeah.
Everything she did a lot of badass things. People weren't expecting her to be badass, and she was. Yeah. So that was good.
That was very good. There were a whole bunch of deaths in the movie. Professor X, that was very emotional. That scene, that was the death scene I think we all wanted back in X-Men 3, and it was pulled off here with the right amount of weight and emotion and sorrow that death should have had.
Right.
And then at the end, when Wolverine dies, that I think is the perfect way to just end not just the Wolverine movies, but the X-Men franchise as a whole, because you've been on a journey with this guy for years, and he finally gets what he's wanted his whole life, which is to die and be at peace. And then at the very end, when X-23 takes the cross from his gravestone and just turns it on his side, so it's an X. That was like, no X-Men movie they make afterwards is gonna compare to what that meant.
I was like, eh.
No, I honestly think like,
come on.
No, that was perfect, because no matter how hard he tried, no matter how much he didn't think he was an X-Man, he was an X-Man, and he was what Professor X's vision of a world where mutants and humans can live in peace. He believed in that and represented that to his fullest. That's why I think he tried to keep Professor X alive and healthy all these years, because he still believed in that peaceful world vision that Charles was selling all those years. And then the final tilt of the cross to the X just represents not only all of that, but all of the franchise as a whole.
Okay.
So
I did like X-23's dialogue with Wolverine at the very end when he was dying. She called him Dad.
Yeah.
And that was very
that was
emotional.
nice.
That was good. That had a lot of weight to it.
I heard everybody in the theater cry at that point.
Yeah, there was a lot of wailing.
Yeah.
It was very weird how loud everybody was. That was a good dialogue at the very end.
Yeah.
I think he could have gone out in a different way. Like he got killed by his clone.
Right.
Pretty much.
Well, if anyone was going to take out Hugh Jackman, it's going to be Hugh Jackman.
Yeah. Or it could be himself. Yeah, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Like he had the bullet to blow his own brains out.
I wouldn't have wanted that. Like that wouldn't have been, I think, a good ending. Yeah. But I think he went out a hero.
All right.
And he
on a tree stump.
Yeah, he died.
Okay, he got impaled by a tree.
Yeah, he died the way he lived, which was violently and at war with himself, pretty much. So
I think that Professor X, him going senile, that was really hard to watch. That was a little too like real and that was a little too like that was sad and for half of the movie I was like, this is just an escort mission.
Yeah,
like he's holding, like Logan is being held back like a lot right now. So I'm glad he died where he did in the story so that they can move on and be a little bit more badass. But like,
I feel like having Professor X there was good for the story because he's the only real father Wolverine has ever had.
I'm not saying he shouldn't have been in it. I'm just saying like that's how I felt while I was watching it. I was like, he's holding them back.
Yeah.
And it sucks because he was charming, but he was also like senile, and that was really hard to watch.
Yeah,
because Patrick Stewart is an amazing actor.
Yeah.
He knew exactly what he was doing. So overall, I'd say I did enjoy it, but I was just expecting a little bit more squeeze out of it.
I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I did. I thought I would. I would label this movie a great movie. It's not perfect, but I think if you see it, you will walk away. You will have seen a great film. It's unlike any other comic book movie that's come out in the last few years. It's serious, but it knows exactly when to throw in the right amount of levity. Don't take your kids to see this.
Definitely not.
This is R-rated for a reason. But if you are of legal age to go see an R-rated movie, definitely go see it. It's gonna be a good one. I promise.
I'd probably give it a good rating, maybe towards great, somewhere in between.
I would give it.
You already gave it a great.
Yeah, I was saying out of stars.
Oh.
4.5 out of 5.
I don't do stars.
Yeah, you shouldn't do stars, but
I might give it a 3.
Really?
Yeah. It was good. What do you guys think about Wolverine? Logan. Movie's called Logan.
Yes.
Are you gonna see it? Are you interested at all? Have you seen it already? What do you think? Leave it in the comments below. Add us on Twitter. All this other social media garbage. And we'll have a little vlog of us at the premiere,
yes,
too.
Yes, we will. Hobnobbing with all the famous people.
Yep. Yeah. All the hobnobbing we did.
Yeah.
But we want to put this out first.
Yeah.
So thank you guys very much.
Have a good week.